What's up?
What's up guys, welcome to another video. So in this video I'm going to be going over how to deal with Kabal, but mainly his Mean Streak variation. Now this variation is very strong, it gives him a lot of cancel pressure and he's plus off most of his things. Now he's minus off some, but he's plus off others. And it's important to know when he's plus, all that kind of stuff, so you know when it's actually your turn. It's also important to know the mind game he has, because even though he's plus 1 or 2, doesn't seem like much, but he can do a lot of cool things with that. And on top of that, Kabal by himself, he's safe on pretty much everything. Like all his strings are safe. He has no flawless block gaps, nothing like that. All decent staggers, and he can do staggers at certain spacings where it's very difficult to take back your turn. So it's honestly very important with Kabal. You have to know when it's your turn or when you can do something, and know when you have to respect. Because if you don't know that, you're going to get blown up by Kabal. So first things first, I want to show you how to deal with just his special moves, at least the stuff that you can punish. So obviously, this is punishable. I'm sure everybody knows that. That's very easy to punish no matter how he does it. Minus 15, full combo punish. But no good Kabal is ever going to do that. But if they do it by mistake, it is your turn. Now if the Kabal player decides to throw the buzzsaw in your face for I don't know what reason, he's minus 10, he's punishable. If he decides to enhance it, it will keep himself safe if you block it, but it's a high, so make sure you duck it. And that's pretty much it for that. Now the other thing you see Kabals do a lot, because he technically has 50-50s in this variation, right? Because he has this overhead, and then he has this overhead here, and he has the low buzzsaw he can use. But honestly, first of all, you can fuzzy guard this low, and you can actually punish the low completely every single time, even though I know nobody does it. So first things first, the low comes out in 27 frames. It's not even about fuzzy guarding, even though you can fuzzy guard. You can straight up react to 27 frames if you have like part of your mind looking for it. But if you want to fuzzy it, you can fuzzy it too, right? 4-2-2-4. The last hit comes out in 22 frames, the low comes out in 27, so you can fuzzy it like that. This overhead, the overhead comes out in 16 frames. That's a very easy fuzzy. It's not like his other variation with a low hook, which is kind of hard to fuzzy. This one's very easy. 16 frames versus 27 frames. It's pretty easy to react to. What most people don't know is that the low buzzsaw is completely punishable. And you may think, well wait, well they just enhance it and it's safe. Well yeah, if you block it, but you don't gotta block it. You can actually completely jump out of it, or hell, you can just interrupt it. So first off, just the buzzsaw by itself, go for that mix. He's already minus 17. Anybody can punish minus 17, especially at this range. Now let's say he enhances it. This will make it, a little bit more safe. He's minus 9 from this range, he's not going to get punished. But let me show you the two ways you actually are supposed to punish it. So as you can see, you can either just jump out of it or just totally interrupt it. Now if you decide to interrupt it, it actually often selects both options. If he just does the regular one or the meter burn version, if you do like your mid or whatever, you will get a punish. If you do your mid, you're going to get a punish either way. But if you jump and he just does the regular version of the low saw and does not enhance it, you won't get a punish. So you're better off just responding with the mid or something. Assuming you have a fast enough mid, you might as well do that and get your punish like that. Or hell, it doesn't even have to be a mid, like Katana standing high reaches. This is basically any attack that will reach Kabal that's like I think faster than 10 frames. I think 10 frames are faster and it'll be enough to interrupt it. So that's one thing you can take away from Kabal. He can never get this mix up and be safe on you. If you take that away, that's really good because that takes away one of the ways he likes to open you up with his little pseudo 50-50s, which in this variation anyway you can always block it because the low comes out pretty slow. It's not like the other variation, clean cut, where it's more legitimate, even though you can fuzzy guard that one as well. This one is much easier to fuzzy guard, and let's be honest, you can react to 27 frames. 27 frames, that's pretty freaking slow. And to be honest, that's about all you can punish from this character. That's the only outright thing you can just completely stop. The rest of the things, he can just pretty much do whatever he wants. It's just you have to understand the mind game. Because there's a mind game to his cancel pressure, mind game to some of his staggers, because he can stagger things like for example his back one at a certain range to where you can't obviously take back your turn. which is basically what an Abare situation is. I made a whole video on what an Abare situation is. I'll have the link in the description and a link right now on the top right. But basically an Abare situation is some kind of stagger or situation where you're not that minus, maybe a little bit plus, but you're at a far enough range to where neither player could just do a mid or whatever and just for sure take back their turn. One player may be in a situation where they can poke bait you, bait a mid, whiff punish, or whatever. So that's basically what an Abare situation is. Like something like this would be, something like this would be, or whatever. And Kabal pretty much gets a situation like that off of all his cancels. But before I get into that, let me just take a minute just to talk about his zoning. Now his zoning's pretty decent, it's whatever. He has air projectiles, he has these projectiles, low projectiles. So his zoning is pretty good. The only thing you're going to want to watch out for is just his air projectiles, because he can combo off it, right? So if he does something like this, he can get a combo on you. So just don't get caught by that, because you don't want to get full comboed from full screen. Just make sure if you're trying to zone back, you just zone back properly. Either use a low projectile like Cassie's low shot to duck under the high saw so you can't get comboed like that, or make sure you shoot a projectile at the right timing so you at least trade with Kabal so you don't get comboed. That's the only thing. If your character outzones Kabal, then just outzone him. If your character doesn't, then you gotta get in. His zoning is not that oppressive. You just don't want to get caught by like an EX saw into a full combo. Just avoid that. And also just know his jump 2 is freaking retarded, needs to be nerfed. Like look at this range. This is something stupid. So just watch out for that. Even though you may think you're out of range and you want to trip guard him, you're not going to trip guard Kabal. Like, you're from this range. This is the perfect range for Cassie to trip guard. But check this out. Nope. You get hit. You try to trip guard, you're going to get smacked and get full comboed. So I wouldn't really bother trying to trip guard Kabal, to be honest. Don't worry about all that too much. If you have a really good anti-air, cool. But like if you're at this far range, just let him jump or try to get out of his jump 2 range because it's kind of dumb. Alright, so anyway, let's talk about his pressure. But before I talk about his cancel pressure, I want to talk about just his regular pressure that he has in all his variations. Now, like I said, all his strings are safe. So it's important to know which strings are you able to take back your turn easily, and know which strings or in which staggers you actually have to respect, because if you press something, you'll get poke baited and punished. So let's look at Kabal's moves, right? So he has this 1-1-1. His 1-1-1, that's just auto shimmy. If you don't know what an auto shimmy is, I'll have a link to it in my description and on the top right. But basically what an auto shimmy is the move that kind of looks like a grab, and then you try to tech throw, and then you get hit, and then you get full combo. So that's what his 1-1 is. Now lucky for Kabal, he has a safe one, but it is -5, so if he goes for this, it's clearly your turn. Now if he goes for like his forward 2, for example, now his forward 2, if he spaces it properly, this is an Abare situation where you have to guess. If you try to press anything, he's only -1, maybe -2 if he's just a little bit closer. You're going to get hit. You're going to want to respect that. If you want to counter it, for example, like if a Kabal's doing this, and then he goes to straight in the back 1, which if you try to do any mid that's advancing, you will get hit unless you have like a super long range move or whatever. You're going to want to back up and get a whiff punish on him. That's honestly your best option, because if you try anything else, you're going to get smacked. You have to respect it. Now he can go in more. Now if he starts going in more, that's when it's obviously your turn. Now there's one thing to note. If he finishes the string, he's only -2. I don't know why he's only -2. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but he's only -2. So a lot of Kabals like to go for a poke after this. And even a character like Cassie that has a 9-frame mid, it will trade with Kabal's poke, which is kind of dumb. So you have 2 options you can do. You can either check him with poke, or if you know the Kabal player is going to mash poke, you're going to want to back up and punish the poke. Now of course he can read your backdash and go for another mid, but that's again the mind game because Kabal has such good buttons. But generally if you do poke, it is your turn. You really can't do anything about that in that situation. But of course he can block your poke and take back your turn, so it's like a wheel of options. There's a lot of things with Kabal. There's no surefire way to stop everything he does. It's just important to know your options and make your reads and make your reads count. Alright, next one he has, I kind of mentioned this already, his back 1. His back 1 is his whiff punishing tool, really good mid. He can do it from this range. If he staggers it from here, he's anywhere from -2 to -3. Again, you try to press anything advancing, he can very easily backdash and whiff punish you. You're going to want to be careful about that. You're only going to want to press anything to check him if you know that after this he likes to dash up and grab or dash up and press 1-1-1. You could totally blow that up. but if you try to blow that up and he reads that, he can very easily just whiff punish you. So again, it's another wheel of options. That's why it's an Abare situation. Then for his 2-2 string, first of all, if he staggers 2, he's +3. He does this, again, creates ridiculous space, only -1. Again, another Abare situation. You try to advance, he can very easily back up and punish you. If you respect him too much, then he can do this. Dash up, grab you, dash up 1-1-1. So again, it's a read what you're gonna do. Just remember this, if you know they're doing one of these Abare type staggers, and if you know they're gonna disrespect and try to dash up and press something, whether it be an auto shimmy, a grab, a close mid or whatever, you know you can check them by pressing your fastest punish, your fastest mid or whatever. You know you can always blow that up if you make that read. Now honestly, the safest thing you can do is just back up. Just have like a little backdash just to back up and try to create some space. So even if the Kabal player would try to advance on you, they might advance on you, press something, and they might whiff, and you can get a whiff punish. Or if they were to try to poke bait you, like I said, like do something like this, back up and do back one, you're just backing up, you're chilling, and maybe you can actually whiff punish them if they overcommit, because they're trying to whiff punish you pressing something. But if you take a step back, don't press anything, you can get a whiff punish on them. Well, not always though, because if they do this, back up and just press this, you're not going to whiff punish this by itself. But if a Kabal player overcommits to something like this, backs up, does that, he's overcommitting right there and putting himself forward and just shadow boxing at that point. So at that point, you can get a whiff punish. But again, that's why it's called an Abare situation, and it's a mix-up. So basically, he has it off this, has it off this, and has it off this, if spaced properly. And of course, he has his 9-frame mid. Doesn't get too much off it anyway. It's kind of whatever. It's used more as a check, especially in this variation where he has like, you know, his +1s, +3 situations. That's what he would use it for, but besides that, not that big of a deal. So as you can see, base Kabal has all this nonsense Abare situations, which even though I'm just going over how to deal with this variation of Kabal, this all applies to any other variation of Kabal. I'm just not talking about the special moves that the other variations give. If you want me to go over them in the future, I'll gladly do that. But I think this one is the most complex, especially because what I'm about to go over now is how to deal with all this cancel pressure. Because basically, remember how I said this for the regular strings, he has a little Abare situation off this, and I forgot, it was like one other move or whatever. He can basically get a situation like that off everything. Well, everything except like 2 strings. So he only has 3 situations in which he's minus off a cancel. He can do 1-1 cancel, -8. He does 1 in the cancel, he's -8, which actually means he's punishable. So if he does those 2 cancels, he's right in your face. You can actually mash and punish him. And if he cancels off this, he's -8. Now, there's no reason for him to ever do that because like I established, that's an Abare situation at -1, so he would never do that cancel. So only those 3 cancels are -8. Every other cancel is plus or even. So if he does 1-1-1, he's even, +3, +1. He's +1 there. Could be +1 here. Oh no, he's 0. Stand 4. Stand 4 is already +4. Cancels, he's still +3. Forward 3 is already +6. He makes that +8. He does this, +1. So he's plus off pretty much anything. I just want to reiterate, there's no one way to deal with all this nonsense. You literally have to guess and make a read. The best thing which you can do, which I will show you now, is just to know your options and just to make sure if you get the right read, you get the best punish possible. But I have a surefire answer for one of these cancels if you're freaking godlike, and that's his forward 3. His forward 3 is 25 frames. I see Ninja Killer reacting to Sub-Zero's forward 4 all the time, even after the buffs, which that move is also 25 frames. So if you can react to 25 frames, you can flawless block this move and always get a punish. And that's about your only option you got. Otherwise, you gotta eat it. Or you can react with a poke too if you want, but I think flawless blocking is a little bit easier to react with. And that's about it. The rest of the stuff, you're just gonna have to deal with it and understand what the mix-up is. So I'm just going to use this one cancel as an example, which is his forward 2 cancel. This one where he's +3. It's one of his better cancels, but basically +1 to +3, it's all the same. So remember, Kabal, his mids are slow, right? So this is 12 frames, this is 15 frames, this one is like 16 frames. Nothing really all that fast, except for his forward 4. His forward 4 is his fastest mid. Normally it's not that good because like I said, he just goes into that, doesn't do much damage. but in this variation he can hit confirm it if he has defensive bar, because he can do stuff like this. You can hit confirm that because you go forward 4 straight into the nomad dash. If you see they get hit, you just let it rip. You see they block it, then you cancel it. It's a hard hit confirm to do, but I've seen Kabals do it. I practiced it a little bit. It's not that hard, just takes a little bit of practice, so any good Kabal is going to know how to do that. So off pretty much any of Kabal's cancels, first assuming you're able to react to the cancels, there's 3 options you can do. You can either poke, just chill and block, or respond with your fastest mid or fastest high attack. Now for each of those options that you have, Kabal has a way to punish you. But one thing to remember though, the only way Kabal to completely check you to where you can't do anything else is to poke you. He has to poke after all these situations. Well, I should say he has to poke off all his +1 situations. When he's +3 like this, he does have access to doing his mid, but I'm going to be honest, it's very hard to get that timing precise. The reason being is they gave you like an extra block buffer in this game. So basically when you block something, it is much easier to get your button out frame perfect after you recover from block. So that means is, let's say he's +3 and you have a 7 frame normal. Since he's +3, right, and his mid is 9 frames, you can subtract 3 frames from his 9 frame mid. So let's say it comes out in 6 frames. And your move comes out in 7 frames, or hell, if you're freaking Gearus, it comes out in 6 frames, and no matter what, if you're like a 6 frame character, it's gonna trade with that mid, even though he's +3. But whatever, let's say your poke comes out in 7 frames. If he misses it by 1 frame, and he makes his forward 4 come out 1 frame late, it will trade with your poke. So it's very unreliable, and I wouldn't even worry about it much. So that's why I consider all his +1 and +3 situations very similar. But just know that if you have, for example, Cassie, she has an 8 frame poke, and Kabal goes for his situation where he's +3 or +4 off his cancels, you're going to have to hold that because he actually is able to do his mid. So I'd recommend that you just let him do his mid and just let him waste his defensive bar at that point. Alright, so let's go over all the options. Let's say you're fighting the Kabal player, and the first thing he wants to do, he wants to poke to make sure that you don't press anything. As a person fighting Kabal, what I would advise you to do is as soon as you see him go for a cancel, just chill and block and see what the Kabal does. Because while he can counter everything you do, you have a way to counter everything he does. So let's say the Kabal player likes to go for his poke to check you. The moment you block his poke, it is your turn, and you can take your turn back with a mid or whatever you want. You can go for a grab or anything. Because look, this is -4. So he's -4, he don't got no options, it's your turn. And if he tries to be cute and go for a poke into cancel, that is fake. He's -15, that's not real. So he really can't do much of a poke unless he does something stupid like this. But unless he does that, you're pretty much all set. And he pokes and it's your turn. Now once you do that, the Kabal player is going to be like, okay, he's just respecting me. Then the Kabal player can do this. He can go for slow mids, go for grabs and stuff like that. If you see a Kabal player that after a cancel he likes going for slow mids and stuff like that, what you can do is you can respond like with Cassie. She has a 7 frame combo starting standing 1. You can just respond with that and that'll completely blow up anything Kabal does that's like his forward 2, back 1, anything like that. He goes for a grab, whatever, you can completely blow that up. But let's say the Kabal decides to respect the first time he goes for the cancel to see what you do. And then you start, responding with standing 1-1s, let's say for example your mids or whatever, then Kabal can do this. Kabal also has a standing 1-1-1. So if you try to respond with any kind of mid or high when you're going against Kabal's cancels, he can respond with a 7 frame 1-1-1 and beat anything you do because his comes out in 7 frames. He's anywhere from being +1 to +3. So his move is going to come out faster than anything else that you do as the Cassie player or anybody else. And then he can counter you by doing that. So that's basically the mind game. If you see Kabal going for very slow moves, you can respond with your fastest move. But if Kabal sees you're doing that, he can respond with his very fast move. But the thing is, if Kabal responds with his standing 1-1-1, then he's vulnerable to getting hit by your pokes. So that's basically how the mind game works, but it actually gets a little bit deeper than that to where it's more in Kabal's favor, to be honest. Now let's say you're the Cassie player, and then you have all these options. You're like, well, the safest option for me is either to respect or go for a poke. Because if you go for a poke, the worst thing that's going to happen so far from what I've discussed is just you're going to get poked by Kabal, and then it'll continue to be his turn because he can't do any slow mids. Any slow mids will get beaten out by your poke. If he goes for a standing 1-1-1 to try to punish your fast mid or fast high, he's going to get punished because you went for a low poke and he went for a high attack. So you may be thinking, well, the only thing that can go wrong if I go for a poke to challenge the cancels is that he pokes me, unless of course he does his +3-1, then maybe he can check me with his mid, but that's about it. That's actually not true, because remember what I mentioned about Abare Situations, about the other staggers? He has that similar thing. So I'm just going to show you an example. I'm going to do just any +1 cancel with Kabal, and I'm going to try to poke back as the Cassie player. You see how Kabal can put himself right outside of poke range, so you actually can't even poke, and you can get full combo punished if you go for a poke. Now of course, in that particular situation, if I was the Cassie player and I went for my forward 4, I would win. But of course, I could be scared of doing a forward 4 because if the Kabal decided to do 1-1-1, I get punished. So you can kind of see how that works, right? There's a way to punish my poke. There's a way I can punish Kabal's poke bait. There's a way I can deal with Kabal's poke by blocking it and taking back my turn. The Kabal can deal with the Cassie's poke by either poking or, like I said, poke baiting. Kabal can beat Cassie just respecting the cancel with a mid or a grab, you know, the strike throw mix up. And of course, Cassie can beat out that strike throw mix up by going for her fast high attacks or fast mids. So you see, it's basically a rock, paper, scissors of all his cancels. Now what can I tell you the safest option is? I can tell you the safest option, just to respect and let Kabal waste all his meter so he has no defensive bar. You get him in a combo, he can't break away, and he can't do any more crazy offense. That would be my best advice, unless of course the Kabal is very predictable. They're not really changing anything up. If they're not changing anything up, you know what the option is. I just went over. If they're going for slow mids, you go for your fastest attack. If they're going for poke, you block the poke and you punish. If they're going for poke baits, assuming you're close enough, that's important, assuming you're close enough, you could press your fastest mid and it'll work, just don't press poke. But you see, for example, if Kabal were to cancel this from like this range, you're still pretty freaking far. You're not just going to get poke baited, you can get like baited from your mids or whatever. So in this situation, pressing buttons in any regard is a bad idea. But point is, there's a whole wheel of options. Of any one of his cancels, you have one of those things I mentioned, you have to guess. And like I mentioned before, if he does anything where he's like really far like this, you're not going to really want to press anything because he can very easily whiff punish you. And honestly, that's about it for Kabal. It's mainly just a mind game. You just got to know the mind game and know how to deal with it. So honestly, just remember, you can punish this off pretty much any circumstance. You can never be safe. You can always interrupt it. Just know when to take your turn. If he's like in your face, just using regular normals or whatever, just take back your turn. But if he does something like this where he spaces himself real good, just be careful. Don't get whiff punished for no reason. Just try to make the Kabal whiff, if anything. That's like the best you can do. And that's it. Just be careful. Just try not to get poke baited as much as possible. Just know your options when he does all the cancels. And just try your best to make the right reads. Just see what the Kabal does and just do your best to counter it. Well, anyway guys, that's about it for the video today. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on Twitch, and I'll see you guys next time.